A guy was summoned to another world to become their hero, but he was banished from the kingdom from being level 1, only to find out he was actually the most overpowered person in that world. Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be recapping chilling in another world with level 2 super cheat powers. So, without further ado, let's recap. In the royal capital Paluma, demi-humans are loading a chariot with cargo while being whipped by humans. A guy named Banaza comes and thanks them for the job well done, and tells that some other cargo might arrive later. He tells one of the demi-humans to eat with his companions while they wait, and hands him a bag of money, to the disgust of the other humans who are around. The demi-human does not want to accept the money, but Banaza insists, because he's the one making them wait. A girl gets close and says that, once he makes an offer, he won't take no for an answer. So the demi-human takes the money and calls the others to go eat, asking them to thank Banaza on their way out. The other humans call him a hypocrite and go away. Banaza doesn't understand why humans and demi-humans can't get along, but the girl says there are a lot of people in the capital who don't feel that way. Suddenly, Banaza's body begins to glow, and when the girl looks at him, he was gone. Banaza doesn't know why he was chosen. He just knows that now he is in that world. The summoning of the 198th hero candidate was a success, an elder says, while Banaza appears in the middle of a room surrounded by people he doesn't know. The elder welcomes him to the magical kingdom of H0t, calling him a hero candidate. Banaza doesn't understand what all of that means, because he's just a merchant. The elder explains that, in their desperate attempt to defeat the Dark Army, they summon hero candidates from other worlds according to their tradition, in hopes that they will help them fight the Dark Army. He is asked to put his hands on a crystal ball to assess his powers. As a reward for returning to level 1 after being summoned to their world, candidates receive divine blessings from their gods, powers one cannot achieve by simply training, powers called divine revelations. Banaza realizes he can read the language of that world, but the others realize he didn't receive any divine revelation. He just had the stats of a common man, like he himself had said. The people wonder if they had failed again, but before Banaza can ask them to send him back home, another candidate gets his revelation next to him, and he possesses powers worthy of the legendary hero. He was the one chosen to be the hero of that world. While the king nominates the blonde guy as their hero, Banaza is sad that nobody is listening to him. He looks around and thinks that he had never heard of the magical kingdom of H0t before, so it must actually be a different world. But the only thing in his mind is that they need to send him back home. They put him in a carriage in a harsh manner and leave the castle, while he wonders how that could have happened to him. Before, the king's advisor said that the gate that had brought Banaza there were already closed, so he could not be sent back. It was a failure on their nation's part. So, as a reward, they would allow him to take residence in the Della Vesa forest in the north and live the rest of his life there, but he could not speak of that to anyone. He wants to talk to the driver, but he says he's not allowed to talk to him. He says he just wants to know more about that place, because he's from far away, and he asks the driver if he's on a slave contract with the kingdom. He says that, even though his pay is not that great, he's not a slave. Banaza tells him about how demi-humans are treated in his world, and the driver says it might be a horrible place. There, it doesn't matter if you're a human or a demi-human, everyone is treated equal. Banaza wants to know more about the Della Vesa forest, but the driver doesn't want to talk anymore. Someone has said something about a dark one, but Banaza thinks that this world must not be that bad. 20 days later, they finally arrive at the entrance of the forest. The driver hands him a gift from the king, a bottomless bag with enough food and money to last him for a while. He says there are rumors that the Dark Army lurks around in the forest, and he advises Banaza to get away from there as soon as he can. When the carriage leaves, he touches the bag and its stats appear in front of him, just like in his old world. It has money, clothes, food, water, everything he needs. He clicks on the sword and picks it up, realizing it's just a cheap one. Some slimes appear next to him, and he thinks they are not going to attack, but he's wrong. The slimes jump at him and he slices through them, which is enough to break the terrible sword he got. A message appears in front of him, telling him his level had increased, and now all his stats are infinite, but he doesn't understand what that symbol means. Also, now he can activate voice guidance. He turns it on and the voice says that, now that he has leveled up, he can use the following spells without opening a window. Then, several notifications appear around him, and he is overwhelmed. The voice says the skills location tracking, monster luring, and forced recovery had been applied to his bag, and that was why the slimes attacked him. He wonders if someone wanted him dead, and tells the voice to remove the skills from the bag. He's not wasting time thinking about how those weak-ass spells were put in his bag. Now, he just needs to find a safe place where he can protect himself. As soon as he tries to enter the forest, a warning message appears, saying that the place is contaminated by a high amount of malicium, a substance emitted and dispersed by demons that is highly toxic for humanoids. The voice asks him if he wants to purify the forest, and he says yes. The spell will consume a third of his magic, but he has to do it because he's going to live there. The spell emits a blinding light through the forest, but nothing feels or looks different. Then Banasa starts receiving dozens of messages saying he has leveled up. Back at the capital, the first princess confronts the king, saying that sending Banasa to the Delavisa forest was too cruel because of the rumors about the Dark Army being there, and also because it was their fault he couldn't go back to his world. But the king says he was just a piece of trash unsuited to be their hero. Then one of the elders calls the king and says there was evidence that the highest holy magic of all, purification, was just used. The king says it was probably the blonde guy who was chosen as their hero. He was impressed that he could already cast such a powerful magic, and is happy he was the one he chose. But the elder says the magic was not cast in the south, where the hero was headed, but in the north, in the Delavisa forest, where Banasa was. Speaking of him, he was now level 367, even though he hadn't killed any more monsters. He hides the level up notifications and wonders how much magic he has left, only to find out it had been refilled already, and he thinks he doesn't have much magic at all. He doesn't know if his lame purification spell did any work, but he can't live in town. The voice suggests he uses shapeshift magic, and he thinks it would be useful, because no one would recognize him. Then he transforms into a very hot girl, but he's embarrassed because he's going to have to live in this new body from now on. So he turns back into a different guy. The voice suggests a teleportation spell, so he can go straight back into the capital, and that's what he does. He thinks teleportation spells are basic in that world, because back home, only high-skilled sorcerers could use them. He tries teleporting back to his old world, but it obviously fails. Now he needs to make money, and he decides to go look for guilds. It would be hard to enter a merchant's guild without knowing anyone, so he goes looking for an adventurer's guild instead. The voice guides him to the H0t Castle Town Adventurers Guild. The guild system there is similar to his old worlds. You get better rewards after completing harder quests, and he decides to register. He doesn't want to use his real name, so he registers as Fleo, which was the name of a dog he once had. He gets his tag and starts looking for quests, when he hears a girl asking for an escort to the Delavisa forest, but no one is willing to help her, even though she can pay, because of the Dark Army rumors. A punitive force will be sent out there soon enough, so she should just wait, but she wants to help her family who live there. Fleo says he can help her, because he's been to the forest before, and it would be easy to go back with his teleportation magic. The other people seem shocked with the kid that can use teleportation spells, because no one can use them, and he realizes that maybe it wasn't a basic spell. Suddenly, Rosa of the Royal Knights shows up, asking him to step away from the girl. She doesn't believe a boy like him can use teleportation, and she asks what he's really after. A bunch of other girls face him, forcing him to answer. He explains that he's just an adventurer and invites them to go with them to the forest. They go to an alley where no one would see them, and Rosa says that if this was a trick, he will be punished. But it wasn't a trick. Fleo uses the teleportation spell and takes everyone to the Delavisa forest. The witch girl asks him if he's a great sorcerer of the highest order, but he's just a rookie adventurer who can use a bit of magic, and Rosa and the others apologize for being rude to him. The girl doesn't understand what happened, because there is no sign of Malicium in the forest, and she was sure it was covered in a thick layer of it. Fleo tries to explain, but the voice says it's dangerous to say you use purification in front of a demon. He doesn't understand, but the girls do, and ask him to get behind them. Rosa asks the girl to show her true form, and says there was a report of a suspicious girl trying to reach the forest, the place where the Dark Army is. The girl finally shows her true self, and says that a knight employed by the castle has some nerve talking like that to her. Then she turns into a gigantic wolf. She is Fenris, younger sister of Fenrir of the Infernal Four, a lupine. Her brother had sent her to observe the enemy and find food, but she needs them to die. She releases a wave of Malicium that affects all of them, except for Fleo. She attacks him, but he manages to evade her. He can't run away and protect all 4 girls, so he decides to teleport them back to the castle. He still doesn't know why he was chosen, but he's not going to be killed before he gets to do anything in that world, so he decides to use every single spell he has. He starts by using Meteoric Leap while Fenris jumps on him, and he manages to escape. He blocks her attack with Earthen Rampart and captures her with Whirlwind, but she relocates away. He finally pins her down with Gravitation, and the big bad wolf can't move under the sheer power of gravity. He needs to restrain her, and the voice suggests he uses Subjugation, which enslaves the target, allowing him to control their thoughts and actions. But he doesn't want to do that. Fenris tries to use Gravity Reduction to escape, but Fleo's spells negates it. He still refuses to use Subjugation, while Fenris's nearby relocation spell is also negated. Meteoric Leap and other spells she uses are all negated, and Fleo still refuses to subjugate her. He doesn't want to bring that subjugation shit into this world. Finally, Fenris gives up on fighting. Since she can't fight, there's no reason for a warrior like her to live anymore. So she begs Fleo to kill her. But he doesn't want to do it. He didn't even want to fight her to begin with, so he sets her free. Fenris doesn't understand. She's a demon, a warrior who is supposed to battle humans. So why is he letting her live? Fleo doesn't care about things like who is a human or who is a demon. He just doesn't want to kill someone who has surrendered. Fenris thinks he's naive, but turns back into a girl. But this time, instead of a little kid, she's a hot young woman, and she's completely naked. He covers her body with his cape and says that if she promises to never fight humans again, he will let her leave. But she can't leave dressed like that, so he searches his bag for clothes. Before he can do that, Fenris passes out, and the voice says she just went to sleep due to magic depletion. Later, Fleo is studying magic while Fenris sleeps in his tent, and he finds out there are a lot of different types of magic, and wonders why he is so powerful. Fenris wakes up startled and sees clothes next to her. She opens the tent and looks at Fleo. She thought humans were fragile, but even though she's resistant to magic, she couldn't do anything against him. She realizes her magic was restored, and Fleo says he used healing magic on her. She says other people would kill and skin her, and swears she would never fight with humans again. And because Fleo has such an immense power, she identifies him as her master and will dedicate her life to pay her debt to him. He is embarrassed and says she doesn't need to go that far, but she's determined. She will carry his things, be his slave, whatever he wants. She just wants to be by her master's side. He says she doesn't need to do any of that, because he doesn't want to own anyone. She looks deeply at his eyes, moaning like a puppy, but he's not going to fold. Since she can't be with him, her only other choice is to die, and that's when Fleo changes his mind and accepts her offer. They start talking, and Fleo reveals he's not from that world. He was summoned as a hero candidate, but he didn't have any powers, and since they couldn't send him back, he was forced to live far away from town. He uses shapeshift and shows her his true face, saying that he changed it because people from the castle might be after him. He doesn't know what to do next or where to go, so if Fenris follow him, it's going to make life rough for her, and she'll regret it. But Fenris says she doesn't mind. Lupines live only for the one they recognize as their master. It's their rule, no matter who they are or where they're from. She's going to be loyal to him and live with him for the rest of her life. So she pleads him to stay by her side forever and hugs him. Back at the capital, the king is questioning the hero. They send their forces to fight the Dark Army, but he lets them be destroyed. The hero is pissed and has something to say about the soldiers the king sent on the mission. They panicked and broke formation as soon as they saw a magic beast and were instantly wiped out. And the hero did everything he could to save as many of them as possible. So the blame was all in the soldiers, and they should be glad he brought many of them back safely. The king asks one of the soldiers how the hero did in the battlefield, and he says he remained at the back of the army and fled right after the fight started, yelling and blaming the others. Now, several men are displeased with him. Meanwhile, the hero paces away from the throne room, angry that, even though he's been training for a month, his skills haven't improved at all, and he doesn't have a chance against strong beasts. One of his servants calls him and he apologizes for the delay, inviting her to go with him, so he could spend all the castle's money on luxuries for her. Fleo and Fenris get to town, and he needs to make money so they can rent a place to spend the night. So he wants to go to the Adventurers Guild. He's a bit embarrassed that Fenris calls him master and asks her to just use his name, but their conversation is interrupted when a merchant calls Fenris and asks if she wants to buy vegetables. The guy calls her Mrs. because he probably thinks they're a couple. Fleo thinks it would be nice if people thought they were a couple, because they could travel without raising suspicions. Fenris is thrilled with the fact that she'll be married to a guy as strong as Fleo, and she accepts him as her husband, even though he only wanted to pretend they were together. But it's too late. She's already calling him darling. They go to the Adventurers Guild and Fenris gets her tag. She sees that Fleo also has one, which means they are bonded. In her race, they have a marriage ritual that consists of the couple eating the bones of a prey they hunted together, and the idea of having a matching accessory reminded her of that. She is about to register as the Great Fenris, but Fleo interrupts her and says her name is Riz. She apologizes for her mistake, but he says it's okay, people will not recognize her in that form anyway. She just needs to get used to living as a human from now on. The guild woman shouts that she has an urgent quest. A large group of psycho bears has been spotted north of there and is headed to the city. The psycho bears are the ones who destroyed the hero's army, and this time only, the reward for each one will be multiplied by 10. Fleo thinks they shouldn't do it, even though it sounds profitable, but Fenris disagrees. She thinks he would defeat them easily, but even the hero couldn't do that. so he's not sure. Then Fenris says she's going to kill them by herself. If she wins, it will prove how strong Fleo really is, as the one who defeated her. They teleport next to where the Psycho Bears were spotted, and there is a house the guild provided for them. Fenris thinks she could easily handle a few Psycho Bears, but Fleo wants them to stay together. She is happy with that, because together they could even defeat the Dark Lord. They hear someone screaming and run, finding the monsters surrounding a group of adventurers, who are actually the girls who went to the forest with Fleo before. One of them, called Blossom, is already injured, and she's attacked again. But Fleo stops the monster with a huge lightning bolt, and Fenris attacks another one by kicking him from above. They recognize Fleo and thank him for the help. They were worried about what might have happened to him and are happy he is safe. He introduces Riz as his travel companion, which doesn't make her happy. One of the Psycho Bears tries to attack her from behind, but just one look is enough for it to surrender. They can't let it go free, so they decide to turn it into a pet, since it would be a great feat to have such a ferocious beast under their command. But they can't walk around with a huge bear by their side, so they turn it into a cute little unicorn bunny and name it Saib. They go into the house where the girls thank them again and formally introduce themselves. They are Bellyrosa, the Knight of Clyrode, Blossom, the Heavy Fighter, Bilary, also a knight, and Belano, the Witch, who is specialized in defensive magic. After the introductions, Bellyrosa kindly asks Fleo to teach them how to fight. Since the army's defeat, the hero has been furious. He locked himself into his chambers, saying that he wouldn't launch an attack at the Dark Army again until he found an army strong enough to do so. Because of that, the king ordered all the Knights of Clyrode to train until they can defeat Psycho Bears and other strong beasts. The girls are still new to the order, and even the four of them together can defeat one single Psycho Bear, so they want his help. Fleo is not sure, because he himself still doesn't understand everything about this magic. Fenris is angry and jealous at the women for asking his help, and he introduces herself again, this time as his wife, saying that he just wants to live a peaceful life with her. The knights decide it would be rude to impose, but Fenris, who is now glowing, thinks it's actually a good idea. He could teach them how to fight by actually fighting them, and she, as his wife, supports him at everything he does. Fleo is not one to give everything away for free, but he decides to accept, even though he's not very confident he could teach them. They want to start right away, but they still have one request. It's dangerous to camp at the area, so they want to rent one of his rooms. Fenris is the first to accept, because the house has many rooms, and the two of them can always share a bed, since they are a married couple. Meanwhile, at the castle of the Dark Lord, Uliminas goes to him with a report. She says that the purification magic that annihilated their unit, led by Fangaril in the Delaveza forest, was not cast by mages of the Kingdom of Clyrode. It was actually cast by an individual. The Dark One is intrigued with the idea of a single person with magic powerful enough to instantly eliminate demons, and he wants this person captured and brought to him. Well, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the notification bell so you won't miss anything new. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.